Hey guys, welcome to my reading corner. I am Jack of Jack's Reading Corner, and this is my last video I'm going to film this morning. And then after, I'm probably going to see if my mom's going to go to Walmart yet. If not, I'm going to do some reading. But I thought I went, since March is the month for women, and we just had an International Women's Day on Friday. I was inspired by the book Castle and Simon of Savage Reads to do a video where I talk about the female authors I want to read more from. Now, I'm not going to include authors like Leigh Bardugo or Sarah J. Maas or Kate Morton because I've read a lot of their books. I'm trying to pick authors that I've only read like a few of their books. Or that I had just read one of their books this past year. So, let's see. Who did I say first? I have a Word document on this. Where is it? Excuse me, let me call that up first. Okay, come on. This thing is so slow. But let's see, I want to see who I picked first, who I put first in that Word document. Okay. Where is it? Thing is so slow. Okay, here it is. Okay, just calling this up. Okay. Alright. Oh good. So I was worried it would kind of miss it would hide the screen and I would disappear. I don't know how that works though. I don't know if I'll actually disappear from you guys or not. But, so the first one is one that one of the many authors I discovered last year. This was an author that Jean from Jean's Bookish Thoughts, and I want to say Sam from Sam's Nonsense too, kind of introduced this author to me too. And what I've noticed is a lot of times, a lot of my, I'm not going to say specifically who, because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, of course, but there are some booktubers that I just enjoy watching and enjoy listening to them and how they talk about books in general and their favorite kinds of books. But then there are some authors that talk about books that make me interested in the books that they read. I become eager to read those books right that second. And I feel guilty if I'm not, if I'm not reading those books. I'm in the middle of books that are not ones that they're talking about. Because they just get me so excited about certain books. And in this case, that was, the author is Juliette Marillier. And this is a book that I had for a long time. Daughter of the Forest, if you can't tell, if you can't see it. And I was debating about reading it because I was like, I was, donating books before we moved. And also, when we finally got here where we currently are living now, my mom was like, I'm not buying you another shelf. I can't right now afford to buy myself a new shelf. So it was like, why don't, if you're going to continue buying more books, then you need to just donate your other books. And there is a used bookstore 10 minutes away from me. And they take donated books. So that's what I've been doing. And this is going to be one of those books. But then I decided, I'm going to go ahead and get it read because it is fantasy. And I kept going back and forth with that. And then it was Jean and I think Sam from Sam's Nonsense, who, when they were talking about Juliette Marillier and her books and stuff, and I think Sam from Sam's Nonsense had read the book, right? And she was the one who finally persuaded me to read the book, indirectly. Because, of course, I haven't really interacted with her. I might have commented on one of her videos and she might have responded. I don't remember. But, yeah, so the way she talked about this book and everything, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and read it. It's fantasy and I probably won't like it, but I did more than I just fell in love with the story. This is basically a retelling of the Six Swans story about this young princess, Sorcia, who her widowed father is tricked into marrying this evil witch, and the witch ends up cursing her brothers and trying to curse her too, and turns them into swans. But somehow she escapes the witch, and the Fae of this world tell her that she can save her brothers and break the curse, but she must remain mute until and make these shirts made out of nettle and place the shirts on her brothers herself at a certain point. So she hides out in the forest and does this and pursues making these shirts for her brothers out of nettles. And then eventually she is told by the Fae that she needs to travel and move on. And she ends on her travel, she ends up getting rescued and saved by two men who, one of them turns out to be the future king of the enemy kingdom. And it turns out he recognizes that she has a medallion of his brother's because in the beginning of the book, she had saved his brother and healed him after she had found out he had been taken prisoner by her father and his guards, and she didn't like how he was being tortured because he was just a boy. So she healed him and everything, and he, as a gift, for her kindness, the brother left her this special medallion, and his older brother recognizes it. But of course she has to remain mute, or she can't break the curse to save her brothers, so they take her prisoner until she can finally reveal the information to the future king. And it is a romance, it does have romance, and it's perfect because romance does not take over the plot, but it is in there. And it does play a big role in the story, but the romance feels so much more real than most romances. Not like those fantasy, and I don't mean fantasy as in the genre, but the ones where we fantasize about. Like that magically someone fall instantly in love with us. Some sexy immortal guy. It feels more real and realistic, despite that it is in the fantasy genre. And I definitely want to read more because I've heard a lot of positives about her as an author, because Jean has read a lot more books by her than I have. I've only read this one, unfortunately. But she does write a lot more about fairies, and she also writes about different cultures. Like, each of her books are set in a different culture. And this one is part of a companion trilogy, although she's expanded the trilogy to a series. And from the impression I've got from Jean is that you don't have to read the books. They're not like continuations of each other. Like, this one has a definite ending, and then the next book, Son of Shadows, is about her granddaughter, I want to say. And then the third one is about another relative, I'm guessing. It's basically about all the people in this one particular family that Sorsha is part of. But I just love her writing. It's so immersive and so beautiful, and it's not hard to read. Yes, this is a chunker of a book, but her writing is very beautiful. So the next fantasy author, because there are quite a few fantasy books here, I've just finished this one. This second one, this is Robin Hobb. And her overall series, this is part of her overall overarching series, The Realm of the Elderlings. But what she does, and this is what Brandon Sanderson does too, she writes a bunch of little series within it about different characters in this world. And this particular one is the second one in the Farseer trilogy about Fitz, who is the bastard son of one of the princes of this kingdom. And he gets taken in by his grandfather, the king. And in the first book, he is trained by the king's assassin, Shade. And then in the second book, he has had basically enough, and he almost walks away. But then he's forced to be part of he's forced to not be able to leave. And the king is really sick. His grandfather has become really sick. And as he's learning there's this special magic that the members of this family have called the skill, where they can basically mind meld with people. And Fitz is slowly learning that skill, because unfortunately in the first book, someone tried to teach it to him who did not like Fitz, and was trying to kill him and torture him, essentially. But he still survived and fought back. And now he hasn't learned the skill as easily as the rest of the people of the Farseer family. But his uncle, the other prince, is teaching him the skill, and he is having him use it to help him with the Red Ship Raiders, who are people who will raid the raid all the villages of this kingdom and essentially kill them and zombify them. So Fitz is helping the prince with that, the king in waiting, I should say, because he's gonna be, since Fitz's father died, his uncle is gonna become the new king. And there's also like, this is very much this. I will warn you, this is a character piece. I feel like, so it's a lot slower, and you get. And this is very much about the relationships. Fitz's relationship with all the people in his life. And you realize that a lot of these people, with the exception of a couple people, most of them, they all really care about him and love him and are trying to protect him. And there's also this really cool magic that Fitz has inherited called the Wit, where he can mind meld with animals. But the danger of that, he's told by Berwick, the stable master, who kind of also fosters Fitz before he's taken in by the king, warns him that some people that have the wit will become more beast than man. And unfortunately, that kind of did happen in this book. I hate to say it. I didn't want that to happen. I wanted Berwick to be proven wrong. Of course, he wasn't. I shouldn't be surprised now. But this is such a really good book. It is a slower reading. But it's such, again, another world that you just get immersed in. There's so many fascinating, intriguing characters. And it just proves that a female author can write this kind of stuff. It may not be as gritty as a Song of Ice and Fire series, but who says epic fantasy has to be gritty? Sometimes it can still be great and amazing without it being gritty. And it's not, and there isn't a lot of romance. There's a romance in the story, but it doesn't dominate the story. So, if I ever come across that guy, I would like to point out Robin Hobb to him. So, sorry. Years ago, I was reading this, I can't remember where I saw it, but this guy made a comment essentially implying that a woman couldn't write things like the Song of Ice and Fire series. It's like, well, here you go. That just proves it. It was very sexist of him to think only women could write silly romances. I mean, there is romance in the story, but there's barely in it. It's mostly about Fitz's journey. It may not be as brutal and as gritty, but you know what? That does not mean that a woman can't write this kind of stuff. So, sorry, I'm just that. Ever since that comment, it's still on my mind. It's so long ago that sometimes I do wonder, did I actually see that comment? But does that comment actually exist? But then it's like, it kind of stay in these, so it's like, it has to have existed. Okay, so, the next several books are more literary than, oh, I forgot, where is it? Can I grab it? I just forgot there's a few other authors that I wanted to mention, if I can, yes, perfect, I forgot. I knew there were more authors. Okay, that one I don't have. Oh, Diane Sutherland and Erin Morgenstern. So let me see if I can grab those two. Okay. Okay. I think that's all of them, hopefully. So the next several authors are going to be more literary than fantastical, although one of them is, okay, so the next one is Sarah Waters. I just fell in love with The Paying Guest. First of all, it's set in the 20s, and any story that's set in the 20s is going to be awesome to me. I love that time period. Whether it's the roaring 20s with the flapper girls and stuff, or just the mundanity lives of people in the 1920s. I just love it. It's such a beautiful story. It takes place in England. It's this mother and daughter. The daughter is probably around my age, and she's unmarried, and it's just her and her mom and their father who died. Her father who died, he left her and her mom in a lot of debt. So they have to have people rent one of the rooms in their house. So the people that first apply to rent one of the rooms is a married couple who's very, very different and very unique and very young and spirit, and a young, vibrant couple. And Frances, our main character, ends up falling in love with the wife. And the wife falls in love with her, and they have an affair. course, this is, like I said, this is set in the 1920s, so back then, not only was the wife cheating on her husband with Francis, but also the fact that they were two women. It was a female-female romance. It's like, that's even, back then, that was even worse. That was even more of a sin. So it's all about them trying to hide their romance, hide their love, and it ends up, and of course, it blows up in their faces, but it's still such a beautifully written. I love Sarah Waters' prose. She's so beautiful, and I love the world that she's this. I mean, it's not even another world; it's our world, but set in the 1920s, and it's not in my country. It's in England, but it's so beautifully written and enriching. And I know it's not everybody's favorite story of Sarah Waters, but I loved it. So I started collecting her books, and I did start reading this one, The Little Stranger. I picked it because I was gonna read it in October, but then that fell through. And this is like from what I know, it's like a haunted house kind of story, and it's about the fall of the Stockersea or something like that. And like the difference, this man from a lower class observing this rich family, and so that's all I really know. And I don't want to read. And it's a post-war summer, so I don't know if this is in the this might be in the 1920s too. I'm trying to, is it in the, it doesn't say, but it's a post-war, so I don't know if it's about World War, after, I don't know if they mean after World War I or not. But yeah, I'm excited to read, and I want to read more of her books because I love historical fiction. And I mean, when I read it, I don't read it that often because I just go straight to fantasy, but it's just, again, so beautifully. I know I like it. I don't, like, my first instinct is to go to YA and then to go to fantasy, so, and who knows, I might still buy fantasy when I get to Books A Million, if I go today. And there, of course, are authors that I've had my mind set on. So I don't know if I'll go, though. I mean, my mom, because she might not want to she might be like, okay, you don't need to be buying more books. So, yep, that's so, so I have a lot of her books. I have The Little Stranger, the Fingersmith, of course, The Paying Guest is the one I mentioned. I can't think of what else. But anyway, okay, so the next author is Donna Tartt. I just loved her writing. Again, another author with amazing writing. But I was also intrigued by the stories. This California young man who's at college age, and he decides he wants to go to this prestigious school in Vermont. It's very isolated. And he gets in. And then he finds out about this, because he finds out about this classic, Greek class, because he's always been intrigued, but always enjoyed Greek, so he decides that he wants to sign up for this class, but his guidance counselor says the teacher that teaches that class is very selective of his students and only wants a small group of students in the class, but he ends up applying. He doesn't get in at first, but then after meeting some of the people in that class, he ends up getting in, and it's a very small, like, only 5 students, and he's the 6th one, I think. And he just falls in love with these people. He is so fascinating. Puts them on this pedestal. But then something happens. And this is in the description on the back, or in the back flap in a hardback version. He finds out someone gets murdered from the group. And the first part is about them planning the murder and how they almost don't succeed but then they, that planning the murder and why they feel the murder is necessary. And then the second part of the book is the aftermath of that. And basically, Richard starts to realize these people are not that great, and he sees their flaws, and sees how messy and toxic these people are. And he's not sure if he wants to be part of that anymore. And he kind of gets stuck in the middle of this weird group of people. And I have been told that If We Were Villains is kind of similar in that way, that it's kind of about someone getting murdered, and then this, and this one, the main character kind of gets mixed up in it. But it's also about like theater, and I'm a theater kid. I was a thespian in high school, so that was definitely appealing to me. But this is so richly written, and you just get lost in the story. And like I said, there's times when I do need to take a break because it was such a long book, and I can kind of see people's point that like she didn't have to include all the stuff that she did. She could have cut this book partially, like shaved off some stuff in this book. But anyway, I just love, again, another author that I love her writing, and I really want to read more. And I have her other 2 books because I think she only has 3 books published. This one, and then the one that came after this one, and then there's one that came before. A Little Friend, and then the other one is The Goldfinch, which I just recently found out is going to be made into a movie or a TV show or something. Although I would love to see this one into a movie. I think it would be a really great movie. But I definitely want to read, and I have on my overall TBR list, not necessarily I would get to these books, but The Goldfinch is on that list because, of course, the movie is going to come out starring, I think Luke Wilson is going to be in it. I guess he plays the adult version of the main character. So I want to read more Donna Tartt. She's so awesome. I love her writing, and it intrigues me. Okay, so next is one that I don't have a copy of any of her books, and that is, or of their books, because I'm telling you that I want to read more of the Bronte sisters. I loved Charlotte Bronte's story, Jane Eyre. I just fell in love with that. Is one of my favorite books, my all-time favorite books. And I want to read more. I have a movie on-screen version of Wuthering Heights, but I keep missing the opportunity to buy the Wuthering Heights book, because at the time when I go there, for some reason I'm not interested in that one, but I do want to read it. And then I want to read Villette, which is Charlotte Bronte's other novel, and then Anne Bronte, and apparently I think she's the favorite. She's considered the favorite out of the sisters. So I want to read her books. So I know they're all different, of course, but I feel like I want to read them. And plus, I think they might be more interesting. Their stories might be more intriguing than Jane Austen's. And again, no disrespect to Jane Austen, but her books to me are kind of dull. I still want to read them, of course, because I feel like fantasy readers people expect them to read Tolkien, so I feel like romance literary readers are expected to read Jane Austen. But, of course, you don't have to, and they're not that hard. I mean, they are and they aren't. But anyway, I want to read the Bronte sisters. I feel like they're another classics author that I feel like I should read another book by at least one of them. One of the other 2 sisters. Or another one by Charlotte. But yes, and unfortunately I don't have it because I gave Jane Eyre away to my cousin and I have not got it back. And I should just buy another copy of it because it's one of my favorites. But I'm so weird about that. Like, it takes me for a long time before I buy another copy of a book that I've already read because I feel guilty for buying a copy and not buying all the new ones or the ones that are new to me, not necessarily new as in they just came out. Okay, so next is V.E. Schwab, another one of the fantasy authors on here. Unfortunately, I've not read her middle grade books. I am interested in her middle grade books, but I would almost rather just get them from the library. I don't know if they're at my library, and I've kind of taken a step back from the library because, with the library, even though yes, I can recheck out books, but I still feel the desire to read the books within the 2-week period that I have them and getting it finished, and then it makes me worry, excessive worriness and almost anxiety when I'm like, okay, I have to either return this book or recheck it out. I have to make sure I do it on time so I don't have to pay them anything because it's late. But I've read her 3 of her books now. Her adult I read the first book in her trilogy, The Shades of Magic. And then I also just read this, and I have not gone around to Vengeance. That's another book I've been meaning to buy. I just love this book, and the guys in the story, Victor and Eli, are so awesome. You just fall in love with them. They're so horrible, but you just kind of develop a bit of a crush on them. But it's basically, this particular one is, well, you know what? I'm not going to even tell you what, because that's just going to waste time. But either way, I just love Shades of Magic. The world that she's created, the magic system she's created, the Shades of Magic trilogy is awesome. And I do believe she's writing another series. I don't know if it's a graphic novel that's coming out, that's that, or if she's actually writing another book series that's in the Shades of Magic world. I don't know. But because I didn't hear about a graphic novel. But this one is like cool. It's so cool. Plus, I've been trying to read more superhero, supervillain type stories that aren't in novel format. And not the ones that are like the Batman and the Superman and the Spider-Man and the Iron Man, all those. I mean like something that's a whole different thing, a whole new thing. But still kind of has the same feel as those comic books. But this is this one is so cool. And this one is not about superheroes though, because these guys are not heroes, they're villains. They're definitely villains. Or anti-hero types, or anti-villains. I don't know what you would consider, but this is such a fun, and so is the Shades of Magic. And I definitely want to read more of her books. I want to check out Camilla Gray, but like I said, I almost forgot to just borrow them from the library. Okay, so next, I'm trying. Sorry, I'm talking fast. I just don't want this video to be super long, but it kind of already is long. So, next is another one that I don't have any for books. I donated it to One Book of Hers. I read Elizabeth Gaskell. So from a book olive, I've heard that Wives and Daughters is amazing, but from her, I read North and South, which is kind of a Pride and Prejudice retelling. It is and it isn't. The story is very similar to Pride and Prejudice. This country girl, after her father, who is a minister or vicar or whatever, he decides that he doesn't like how the new people that are running his ministry are running it, and he calls his faith in question. So he decides to uproot his daughter Margaret and his wife, Marie, to the city of Milton. And Margaret meets John Thornton, who owns a mill, because this is set during the Industrial Revolution. And he's also the one that's helping them get their house and everything. And he's kind of their, I think he's their landlord also. And he becomes a good friend of her father's, but she does not like him. She does not like how he treats his employees. She thinks he's kind of cold and mean and cruel. And he does have a bit of a temper, and he's kind of judgmental of her. But he, against his better judgment, he does start to fall for her, and she doesn't fall for him right away. In fact, when he proposes to her, she rejects him. And it's like Pride and Prejudice, there's a lot of miscommunication between these two, and misunderstandings, and they don't see each other in a positive light when they first meet. But then slowly over time they start to fall in love, and she starts to see that he has some good qualities too, and that she could fall in love with him. But then there's also his mother, who does not like Margaret, and is also judgmental of her, and she's a great crow, if you think about it. But there's also why I prefer this one over Pride and Prejudice, because it's not just about the romance. It's during the Industrial Revolution, and part of the plot is Margaret befriends some people that work at Thornton's mill, this gentleman and his two daughters, and one of his daughters is the one that Margaret becomes closest to, is very sick. She has inhaled a lot of fumes, and it's made her very sick, and I think she might have like consumption or TB or something. And Margaret becomes friends with them, and the man ends up deciding to lead the rebellion and lead the protests and all that stuff for the workers. He takes charge of the union, so to speak. And it's just about the rivalry between workers and employers and what was going on during the Industrial Revolution and how it affects people. And I just really appreciated that it wasn't just about the romance between John Thornton and Margaret Hale. It was also about what was going on historically in the world. And I don't know if Wives and Daughters does that in any way, but I'm definitely curious. But I'm not in a rush to get it. I will say that, but I definitely want to read Wives and Daughters at some point. And then I know she, of course, has other books, because I doubt she's just written 2 books. I doubt that she just wrote 2 books. I'm sure she wrote another book out there somewhere. But, okay, so next is one that I finally was able to buy one of her books. And that is Agatha Christie. I've had to borrow her books from the library. I've read some of them. I really liked them. I liked the movie version of Murder on the Orient Express, the one that just came out, not the original. But I found this because it's where at the Gibbons used bookstore they're having a sale of mysteries. You buy one, you get 3 for free, which was a great sale. And this is one of Agatha Christie's collections. It was the only Agatha Christie I spotted there, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna grab this. I'm gonna buy this either way. And it's like this. I appreciate that it's this format, like mass market paperback. So it was only $2. If because I'm not, unfortunately, I still had to be cautious because I'm sure that the book they would make me buy would be the one that's a little bit more expensive. So I made sure that all the books I bought that day and the other day were all mass market paperback, so they would all be $2 either way. So this is one of our collections of short stories, and I've only read her novels so far. I've read Murder on the Orient Express, Murder at the Vicarage, and The Spider's Web, which I think is under a different name though. All those were great, it originally was under a different name. But they were all great, and I definitely am I like cozy mysteries, intriguing mysteries. Now I understand, I definitely get Steve Donahue's point that, it seems like the cozy mysteries kind of belittle the story, like someone getting murdered, because it's just about the doddering detective that people, are uncertain of trying to figure out solve the case. It's more about that than the fact that someone actually got murdered, which is not a little thing. I mean, someone got murdered. It's a big deal, Someone got killed. It's very heartbreaking and scary, But yeah, I like them though. They're fun. They're quick reads, and I'm going to read this. And this might be the one mystery author that I've started collecting. That I would actually collect. I like historical mysteries over modern mysteries because I don't want to read. I want to read about, and I feel like those are ones that I would come back to because I like reading about history. So I want to read more of her books. I loved all the books I've read of her so far, and I want to keep going. Oh, actually, I've also read Postern of Fate. That's the other Agatha Christie book I read, so I think that would be 4 books that I've read. And now this will be the 5th one when I get this one done. So, and it will be my first collection of hers, but her writing is so fun, and, yes, it's a little bit more old-fashioned, kind of close to classics writing style, but still such intriguing, fun little, cozy little mysteries that just make you, anxious and be curious about who done it, kind of thing. So, and the daughtering okay, let's see. Next is, this is one that, okay, so this is so I read Uprooted. I want to read Spinning Silver by this author. I loved her books. They are, I get why people didn't like Uprooted, but I thought it was so fascinating and interesting. And like I said, I want to read Spinning Silver. I haven't gotten around to buying it. I haven't bought it myself. I didn't get it for Christmas or anything. But I also started collecting her first series, the Temeraire series, about, set during the Napoleonic War, and this soldier or whatever just raises a dragon. It's about his relationship with this dragon, and this is the last book in the series. It's one of these things where I saw this at the used bookstore, I bought it, but then I realized after I bought it, oh wait, it's the last book. So I had to start buying all the other ones. So I bought His Majesty's Dragons, no, I didn't buy it, but my mom bought it for me for Christmas. And then she got me the 3rd book, and then I bought the 2nd book because she didn't realize that she got me the 3rd book. So, but this is, I cannot wait to read. I loved Uprooted. It was so great, and I want to read her other one. And I love when they do historical fiction, but with magic. I think that's really cool. A cool concept that I like that they do, especially since people back then were very superstitious. And the idea of magic being in that kind of world is really cool to realize to believe the magic has always existed. And that magic has, so I want to read Niobe Novak's other series, and then I want to read Spinning Silver at some point. But I also want to I want to buy Uprooted because I borrowed that one from the library. But again, it's more about, her writing is great, but for her, it's more about, a lot of the fantasy offers, it's a lot more about the stories themselves. The stories that the authors write is really intriguing. For me, I'm definitely a plot-driven reader, so, although I like when the writing is beautiful and enriching and immersive. I do appreciate that. Okay, what's next? Who's next? Madeline Miller. So, I've only read, again, another author, I've only read one of her books. And this was just so good and so interesting. Such an intriguing read. And it had those deckled edges, which I'm one of those people who loves deckled edges. But this is basically about the witch from the Iliad and the Odyssey. And I almost am tempted to read those books. But I don't know if I can. Because it's a different kind of challenge. But this is about her story and how she ended up on the island of Aiaia. And it was such a fascinating read. I definitely get the criticisms that this book receives. And how, I understand that some people are like, it's not a very feminist book because it's really about her sexual relationships with a lot of the people that come to her island. And how she's very, I'm gonna punish these guys for taking advantage of me and stuff like that. And feminism to me is not about that. It's not about overpowering men, it's about being equal to men. But I understand her anger. She's angry at the world and for her family. But it's also interesting to learn about her family dynamic that she has. And how her family treats her like crap. They treat her horribly. But at the same time, she's still so devoted. For a while, she's very devoted to them. And I think those stories are really fascinating. But again, another author that I like the writing. It's a bit slower paced. But it's still, to me, it's really great. And I want to read Song of Achilles. I never got to it, but I want to read it. And again, I keep mentioning these books that I want to read. And I almost think, if my mom lets me go to Books A Million, if I go with her to Walmart, then she might let me go, and then some of them I could buy. I should make a list of those books that I want to, and decide, okay, which one do I want to buy? But anyway, that's why I never go, when I go to a bookstore, I already know, I have an idea of the books I want to get when I go there, or the ones I'm thinking about getting. But anyway, her is so great, and I want it in. This book, like Song of Achilles, I think Song of Achilles was also on the women's prize list, or on a different prize list. But this one is on the list this year, and I can say I've read it, the women's prize. I've not read all of them, but I read some of them. Well, actually, that might be the only one on this year's list that I've read. Possibly two. I might have read two. I don't remember. Okay, so next, I'm almost done. I got 3 more to go. Okay, so next this is one that I read this. These next 2 books are basically books I read long before I discovered BookTube. The 13th Tale. First of all, the premise of this book is really amazing, especially if you're someone who loves to read. It's basically about this woman reporter who gets to write the biography of this famous fairy tale author who decides she's going to tell her story finally. It's kind of like Evelyn Hugo in a way, in that sense. A similar plot. Except for, But if you're a book lover, I definitely recommend checking this book out. It's so fascinating. Such an intriguing read. And I have the books she wrote before this. I bought that one from the used bookstore, Bellman and Black, and I want to read that one. And then she recently got one. Oh, no, wait, maybe that one came out after that one. Yeah, actually, no, that one came out after this one. Bellman and Black did. But she also has another one that just came out either in the beginning of this year or last year. I think it was the beginning of this year. I don't remember what it's called, but I want to read that one as well. I love the writing. Again, the writing is amazing. The story is incredible. I want to read Bellman in Black too, which has a very interesting premise. It starts with a very, simple kid being dumb and basically hits the bird with a piece of rock. And it turns into bigger consequences than just him causing an animal pain. It becomes bigger than that for some reason, and it definitely is very intriguing. I mean, I'm an animal person and everything, of course, so hitting an animal with a rock, that's like, really? You little brat? But then at the same time, the description seems to imply it becomes bigger than it is, which I'm like, to me, it's like, oh, wow, that's interesting. I wonder how this becomes something bigger and has dire consequences for this person, this boy. And then, like I said, she has another book that's coming out that I think it's kind of fairy tale inspired in a way. But I just love this book and I love the story, and I want to read her other one as well. So this one is another one. Actually, this one I need to reread, but I found finally the author is working on another novel, which people that loved this particular book were eagerly anticipating that. But for me personally, I read this so long ago that it was like, yes, I was like, oh, I wonder if the author has any more books, but I never searched for it, and of course realized that no, she doesn't. But then now she's finally writing another book. I don't know when it's coming out, but I remember hearing that she has another book that she's going to publish. It might have already come out though, I don't remember. But it's kind of a romance, historical romance, centered around this whimsical circus that only comes at night. And it's just, I remember loving the story and how it was written, and I definitely want to read more. And I think the author is Japanese, I want to say. I don't know though, but I feel like, as this description says, it's very enchanting and spellbinding, this story, and I just remember really falling in love with this and getting lost in the night circus, and like I said, I did want to see more from this author too. I just wasn't eagerly anticipating it, but I was hoping she would write more one day, and she is, or has, I don't know. But I do remember hearing that she's got another one coming out. What's this cover? I love this cover. And I love when books do this, when they have this and then this on the inside. I think that's really cool. Okay, so this last one is one that, okay, so in case you can't tell, I am a quarter Filipino, so I have Asian in me. And I feel like, as someone of the Asian descent in some way, I feel like I want to read more books by Asian authors. I mean, I do feel like it's true that a lot of times you are drawn to or attracted to something that's completely opposite of you. Like, I think that's why Terry from Florida, who's more European than I am, I feel like that's why she's kind of curious and interested in Asian culture more than me, because I am Asian, so in a way I'm kind of surrounded by it. Like, especially when I go visit my mom's mom. And my sister has some friends that she has one of her college friends is Chinese, actually. But I do feel like, as someone of Asian descent, I feel I need to read more Asian authors. So I became interested. I mean, I was kind of interested in Amy Tan years ago, because, my sister had read it in college, I believe, and she saw the movie. I don't know if it was one of these things where she had to read the book or she just decided to read it, because now it will be hard for me to believe that she would decide to read something, because I feel like she has kind of fallen out of reading because she just hasn't had time. Like, there's college. She went to a regular college, unlike me. I only went to community college, so she had a lot more work than I did. And now she's, married. enjoys hanging out with her college friends, works, and she has a husband, and she has 2 boys. So I think she just fell out of reading, and just doesn't have time to do it anymore. Although I've suggested her quite a few times to check out audiobooks, because she's in the car a lot. But and she does have some books on her nightstand. Of course, some of them are more like nonfiction books about, finances, taking care of kids, stuff like that. But she was the one who kind of introduced me to Amy Tan. So finally I got around to buying Amy Tan. I ended up borrowing her copy, so this is hers. And I finally read The Drylight Club. Now, I think the only reason why I didn't love it as much as I did, because I've seen the movie, I'm familiar with the plot, so it was kind of one of these things where I was just reading, I knew the story, so it was didn't mean as much to me. But then, but I had decided to read that one first because I was familiar with it, and I was able to get through that one quickly. Unfortunately, that's the same thing that happened with Secret Garden, Secret Window, where I've seen the movie version, so I kind of know the story. So it's not as, of course, in a book format, there is a lot more that's not on screen, that can't be on screen. And it's been a long time since I watched The Drylight Club, the movie version. But again, like I said, with Secret Garden, Secret Window, it's like I have that on DVD, so I can watch it anytime I want. So I couldn't get into it. So what I think I'm going to do is that I'm going to read the other books in that novella collection by Stephen King. But I've been wondering more, and I keep missing out on buying her books at the used bookstore because they're there. But anyway, so I just really, this is, I've been meaning to read this, so I can finally give it back to my sister, along with giving her and my brother-in-law, John Adams, they let me borrow John Adams, and each time I've reminded Ryan that I haven't, I'm really sorry. He keeps telling me that don't worry about it, it's okay, I'm not eager to read it right now. But I keep feeling bad, but the problem is it's not the most exciting book. It's nonfiction, so to me at least, it can be kind of dry at times, and I have to be in the right mood for it. But what I keep thinking about what I'm going to do is give him back his copy and buy myself a paperback copy so I don't have to feel guilty anymore, and I can just give him back his copy. But I never get around to it because, again, there's books I'm more excited and eager to buy than that one. I still want to read it, though. But I don't know much what this one is about. I know that there's a shop or something in it, but it seems like there's a lot more literary a lot more Asian books that are set in China or Japan than there are of other countries. So I did do a search on Amazon and on Goodreads for Asian books that are set in the Philippines, or that are about Filipino people. And I know there's a YA contemporary book where one of the families, it's about a Filipino family, but I'm not a big fan of YA contemporary. I prefer historical fiction or adult literary contemporary. So, anyway, I want to read more of Amy Tan, and like I said, I keep missing buying them, because I'm not eager to buy them, so, and I have to be careful because the used books it takes cash, but anyway, so, yeah, I don't know much about what this one is about, but I want to read it and get it finished so I can finally give it back to my sister. So that maybe, even though I did not like Catcher in the Rye, I can borrow from her, Franny and Zoe, which is another book, but same J.D. Salinger that I want to borrow. But I feel like I need to give her back this one first. So those are all the female authors, and I hope this video uploads because I don't know how long it is. And if it's a really long video and it doesn't upload, then this won't matter, and I'll have to redo the video anyway. So, but if it does upload, I hope you all are enjoying your reading, and would love to know what your favorite female authors, if you do read female authors, that you want to share. And if you like this video, be sure to give a thumbs up and click subscribe. If you haven't already, I would really appreciate it. And I hope you all are enjoying your reading, and I will talk to y'all later. Alright? Bye!